Alright, you holy bastards, here is Ultimate Paladin build. I know there is Paladin mod out there, but I wanted to create a Paladin with default game setup without any mods or anything like that. And I believe I've created a good thing here. Most of us already know what Paladin means. Paladin means dealing damage while healing others, helping others, buffing them, and so on. So he is something like tank, DPS, support. All three of that. I immediately fucked up because I've used Undead as a Paladin. That definitely breaks the immersion, but it doesn't matter. Just go with any character that you want. Forget about the Undead. Undead does not work. I've created the build in mind to not play as Undead. So anyway, this is what I've created. Also, this is best used in mixed damage party and in any party that is, because there's a lot of auras here that you can use. There's a lot of things you can add to the Paladin to make him more effective, and you don't need many points in combat abilities for this to work. I put most of my points into strength and some of it into wits. As you can see, my critical chance is nothing spectacular here. I don't have even open slot for my necklace, so I wanted to give myself a real challenge, and I did. I also later on did Paladin Bridge without Lone Wolf. Solo against every one of those bastards. I did not manage to do it, which you will see later on, but it was still a very effective build. From combat abilities, obviously Warfare should be your priority, because everything here scales with Warfare. That does physical damage. This is from gear, but you can also put 2 points into summoning and use Dominate Mind. I mean, it's not really Paladin that would dominate minds, but still, if you want something like that, you can go for it. I've used gear that gives me 1 point into pyrokinetic at least, so that I can have Peace of Mind and Sparking Swings. Peace of Mind is fantastic spell for buffing and clearing those nasty mind control effects. Hydrosophist, Geomancer, Aeroturge. Most of the points should go into Hydro. Out of these three trees, Geo is not needed. If you want, completely ignore Geo, because someone in the party will go for that instead of you. This is all bonus from gear, so that's why I went with Fortify. Usually I would not do this. So completely ignore it here, like it did not happen. Instead, put 2 points into Aeroturge and about 5 points, 4 to 5 points into Hydro. Two-handed should also be as high as possible, because it gives you more damage with your strikes and increases your critical multiplier across the board. Another way to build Paladin is by not using two-handed sword, by not using two-handed weapon, but by using single-handed weapon plus shield. That's completely different then I would suggest something like Leadership, because you will serve most as a tank, but I already did something like that. The Battle Cleric was similar to that, so I decided to ditch that idea, so I went with two-handed weapon. Paladins are, in the end, famous for their two-handed maces. Warcraft, anyone? I could not get my hands on better mace than this one, so I went with two-handed sword, which also works lore-wise. 2 point into Aeroturge will give you teleportation, uncanny evasion, vacuum aura if you have 2 points in necromancy as well, but you can get that through gear. Vacuum aura can be very good in mixed damage group. Same as, for example, evasive aura, vampiric hunger aura, and something like Master of Sparks aura. All these auras can be added depending on what bonuses you have from your gear. Plenty of options here, but let's cover some main skills. This is minimalistic setup that I've used here. Some of the things can be removed because I was playing solo. From Aeroturge I went with teleportation and uncanny evasion. Then from Hydro I went with Armor of Frost, cryogenic stasis, icebreaker that does magic damage, so that's why it's good in party. It scales with Hydro. Global cooling, so that we can create icy surface and enemies would fall on their arse then. Rain, and you can add also vampiric hunger. You only need 1 point in scoundrel. That's why I said it depends what kind of bonuses you have on your gear. Some of these skills will not be available. You can't get all the auras that I've just mentioned. So get the auras that would complement your gear. From Pyrokinetic I went with Peace of Mind, Haste, so you can see I have all the proper buffs. And Fortify you can remove too, because someone else will probably have Geomancy. It's not that useful when Geomancy is so low. But then again, it's up to you, you can add it. Really also depends on your gear. If you have plenty of points in Geomancer from your gear, then use Fortify as well. From Warfare I've used Whirlwind, Tick of the Fight, Phoenix Dive, Battering Ram, you know, the typical stuff. Sparking Swings is combination of Warfare and Pyrokinetic. You should go for Master of Sparks later in the game when you have that available. But before that, Sparking Swings. To get these two, you need to mix any Warfare skillbook with any Pyrokinetic skillbook. If both of these skillbooks that you're mixing don't have source point requirement, you're going to get Sparking Swings. If they do have source point requirement, then you're going to get Master of Sparks. And you know, typical Warfare crap. Challenge could be extremely useful in a party setup, so I would apply that as well. There are plenty of other options, Venomous Aura, whatever, from Geomancer and Necromancer and Scoundrel. Well, there's a lot of bloody options, but I wanted to stay true to, let's say, pure Paladin. The guy who was not tainted with poison attacks, using necro spells and everything. I did use Bone Cage in my showcase because I had to. I had so little physical armor regen that I was getting constantly controlled. So that was my way of avoiding that for at least a brief moment. That would be some kind of a minimalistic setup. Here you can upgrade a lot of stuff. Here, as I said, use those auras if you can. I did not use them here because I'm the only bastard testing, so no point in using auras. From talents, I went with Executioner, Hothead, Living Armor, Opportunist, Picture of Health. Oh yeah, by the way, from skills, use Restoration and Healing Ritual. I was undead here, so Restoration and Healing Ritual wouldn't help me at all. Don't forget to add Restoration and Healing Ritual. That is important. So we've covered the talents. This is pretty much a must setup. Now what would you do if you were playing this throughout the first region? Well, I would do something like this. Focus most of my points into strength, and maybe a couple of points will be needed into memory as well. Might be some points into constitution too, 1 or 2, just to add some kind of tankability. From combat abilities throughout the first region, I would put 1 point into Pyrokinetic, let's say 2 points into Hydro, and the rest of the points into Warfare throughout the first region. Later on you can add Aeroturge, or you can switch, for example, remove Pyrokinetic and add Aeroturge, up to you. Uncanny Evasion can be really good early on. Two-handed is added later when you start pumping points into wits and adding critical chance. Starting talents that are useful are Opportunist, Executioner, then from level 2 onward, all skilled up and bigger and better. That's the build, now let's go test it. Here is the fight. Before the fight I've buffed myself with Fortify and Armor of Frost, so that I can survive the initial attacks. By using teleportation and putting this elementalist near me, I've actually triggered those 2 paladins that I did not want, that are level 20, from the back. Anyway, paladins here are level 18 to level 20. Half are 18, half are 20. It's extremely difficult to do it without Lone Wolf, which you will see here. I did not manage to do it, but even without Lone Wolf I was pretty efficient. Freezing the surface will give you form of crowd control. If you want, in mixed damage party you can use Ice Breaker to do some magic damage to everyone that is standing in ice. Just be careful that your guys will take damage as well. Our power can be extremely good after tick of the fight, which you will see in a second, doing almost 7000 damage without Lone Wolf is damn good. This is where Bone Cage came in play to help me a bit. And anyway, this is just proof that I'm not using Lone Wolf. When you're in a party, you'll be using your auras to help buff your party members, and in between you also use your attacks. Position yourself next to your opponent so that you can use your opportunist talent. With it you can do a lot of damage. Battle Stomps, Battering Rams, removing mind control effects, healing, Armor of Frost, Uncanny Evasion, everything can be used to your advantage with this setup. I did not use Parking Swings here, and I did not use Icebreaker because I was solo, so doing mixed damage while being solo without Lone Wolf is unnecessary. Actually, it's pretty useless, because I can't do as much damage with magic attacks in this setup as I can with physical attacks, so I focused mainly on physical attacks. It was impossible for me to survive this encounter. I managed almost to clear it once with Summoner build. I think it was that Totem build. It was so close. It came down to last 2 turns, then I fucked up the rotation and then I was dead. But I almost managed to clear it. That just proves how good Summoner is. Here they pretty much surrounded me and I could do nothing. But anyway, that's the build. You have lots of options. Play with it, you can add lots of stuff. Auras are extremely good, as I've said. They are available from Driftwood onward. Most of them use one source point. So be careful about that too. Check your gear, level up properly, and you should have no trouble in utilizing Paladin properly. I might check out Paladin mode later on, but I have so much stuff planned, so many builds still to do, that I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that. This is the beginning of the end, and the end of the video. Thank you all for watching, and see you all soon.
Toodaloo, motherfucker! Hey.